a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. It's 9:33 p.m. Thursday evening, the 17th day of the month of January. We're officially live for another live stream. Looking forward to finding out what's on your mind. More importantly, as you can tell from tonight's title, interesting survey was just released from the Federal Reserve in reference to the correlation between extreme student debt loan getting out of hand and the idea that people can't afford to buy housing. They finally connected the dots and came out with a survey that said that apparently if you go into too much debt, then you probably can't pursue other dreams and aspirations. So that being the case, as always, we're going to dive into that. I want to share an article with you, but more importantly, as always, if there's any new topics worthy of our time and energy, feel free to let me know what's going on via chat or give me a call, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. We'll love to hear your voice directly. More importantly, if we have any new viewers, I want to welcome you directly to the RTD community. And so over here in the chat, let me know where you're watching from. Always love to find out where everyone is tuning in from and definitely give you a shout out. And more importantly, find out what's happening in your personal as well as your local economy, and see if we can be of aid and of assistance to help you stay in tune and informed as to what's going on and how to possibly make it through this monetary restructuring that's underway now successfully. So with that being the case, welcome. My name is Mike, and I'm going to do a little check-in and see who's joining us thus far. And as always, if you enjoy the back and forth, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button, because what that does is it allows other people outside the fold to hear about us and find out about us and hopefully join us and help this thing grow so people can get informed and get connected. So we got Scott, we got Brando, we got Jesse. Says NWO Dispatcher. It says, I'm happy I'm still up to see Mike. Scott, man, I appreciate you joining, man. As always, it's a pleasure to see you in the chat. It says, banks don't loan to many people. Women with children find it easy, but men don't. All right, NWO. So off the rip, we talk about banks and lending. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. Scott W. Scott from Grand Rapids, Michigan, but I live in Phoenix now. Love the show. Keep it up, brother. Appreciate you, Scott. Definitely appreciate you tuning in as always. We got Kevin from Downriver. Welcome, as always. And so from the title of this live stream, you know, that gives us something to chew on temporarily until we have more people chime in and share thoughts and articles. But the student loan debt, we're at an all-time high, and it's almost doubled since the last Great Recession. And as a result of people being displaced in the workforce, and just the whole fact that a lot of jobs that were pretty much being phased out, people felt that they needed to go back to school to further their higher learning in hopes of getting higher positions and better paying jobs, of which we're going to find out soon that might not be effective, as well as there going to be a lot of company restructuring, just because at this current moment, it's all about profitability. And so there's no way in really being able to keep on and to live up to all those promises as far as a high payroll if they're not making profit and their shares aren't doing well as a company. So definitely within the first 17 days, not only do we have the government situation where people aren't getting paid, but yet I just I think Jeff sent an article earlier. I clicked it, and there's I think a retail store. I didn't recognize it by name, but it looks like they're filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And so amongst Sears bankruptcy that started last year, this certain retail store filing bankruptcy. I anticipate seeing more bankruptcies, which basically means closure of stores, empty real estate, as well as massive unemployment. So those are things I can all anticipate coming or in the works now, but we won't hear about it all at the same time because I don't think the mainstream news is ready to really dish out the truth as to the true state of the economy. And then also, I want to touch on a State of the Union address that looks like Nancy Pelosi is telling the president is better off if he hold off for his own personal security. So not sure what she was trying to throw a secret threat or a little jab at him, saying that, you better not deliver that State of the Union address in the middle of a government shutdown. But what else we got? Big Mike, what's up today? Mathematics, how you doing, my friend? Legendary Lou. We got BJB Bazin from South Texas. Welcome. Scott says paid $28,000 so my wife could make $10 an hour. Scott Robinson, man, and so those type of numbers, $28,000 in student loans for a $10 an hour job. Sad, didn't do anything but give me a bill. Man, yeah, been there, done that. I understand what the whole student loan process is. My younger days, with my wife, and had to go through those things as well. Thank God it wasn't as much, but I can understand how that could damper the plans. But the good thing is, I'm assuming that from that, hopefully some good comes. We all know better now, especially in the days ahead, that, and it's my firm opinion that the higher learning narrative of go to school to get a good job, that's being tested right now. So this millennial, this student loan debt we're going to touch on in a minute in regards to millennials not buying houses, plays into the idea that more people are waking up to the idea that a college degree doesn't have guarantees the way that it did 20, 30 years ago. And then it also plays into this current environment we're in now where, having a bachelor's degree in of itself is the new diploma. So you'll probably need a master's or a PhD in a minute to actually walk through the door and be considered as a viable candidate for a job that where you're going to get retrained on the job itself. So let me start rambling and get into the main subject. So it says, I suppose I should say I bank with a credit union. I think the Fed is trying to push people into banking with large banks like Chase. Credit is tight with the unions. NWO, so you mentioned loans and unions. Yeah, the banking sector, man. As far as loans, and that's basically to me a sign that they're putting a clamp down on extending credit. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with these interest rate hikes, because the interbank rate loan between banks, I believe, there's still a good little spread on top of the interest rates that basically set the price of money, or for the most part, so the elasticity of money. So, the interbank rate, which banks do business amongst themselves, has always been good to them. So I'm not sure why they're holding back, unless they're holding back more than likely for the need of having as minimum debt, extended new debt rather, and so that they can stay a little bit more liquid in regards to having some reserves for what's coming ahead, where they're going to need as much liquidity as they can to keep them institutions somewhat solvent, even though we all know that they're nowhere near being solvent. And so it says, not sure, I'm 2 hours from Corpus Christi. I live on the border. So BJ&B, you on the border. So you on the border, where not too far from the fence or the wall. What type of situation you got down there right outside Corpus Christi? Is there a wall and not portion there between you and Mexico, or what? Let me know what's going on down there. I've never been to Corpus Christi. Mike G says, buy crypto. Scott, that's sad. It says credit has always been tight with the credit unions. MCU is the worst. Yeah, so when it comes to credit unions, they're supposed to be the more stable, more responsible ones, because they're smaller commercial mom and pop's town type of locations. Even though here in the Metro Detroit area, we have a few credit unions that have probably spread their wings a little too far, given that not many people actually tend to use credit unions apart from, I believe, or it looks like the older demographic or age group wise, they feel more comfortable with credit unions. Because we have a lot of Christian-based credit unions around here and whatnot. So, but at the end of the day, they're all under the same FDIC, and the other one is the CDIC credit, just whatever. So they're all under the same model. And so when it's time to adjust for possible bail-ins or bank runs, I think all institutions are going to have to shut their doors, because you can't have the too big to fail banks go under and then not cause a ripple effect into the smaller banks. So with that being the case, what's going on? I'm going to dive right into this article. Phil, and it says $100 is really $1. Okay, Phil, let me elaborate on that for me. It says, I used to live in Rio Grande Valley, ATE, so many grapefruits, I got ulcers. Okay, Jesse, fair enough. Fair enough says, yes, there's a portion of the wall 2 miles south of my home. Not a lot of people know the wall is there. I'm 2 hours south of Corpus Christi, though. So they have a portion of a wall there. So is that wall, has that been there for quite a while? Or is that some type of new construction? Or how, to your knowledge, how long is that, or how long does that wall stretch? I'll be curious to find out that. And so definitely something of interest. Says, does anyone know what happened with the bank runs that were supposed to happen in France? Bazin awakens. Very good point, man. So immediately on Sunday, well, to just touch on that, I'll touch on a little bit on Monday, but the mainstream news, of course, to prevent panic and to prevent any type of fear of people actually getting wind of a bank run, I would imagine, and it's pretty obvious, that I actually went to some France news sources and not a single source mentioned anything about the banks. And so I would imagine that if 50,000 activists were on the streets, apparently, you know, that Friday, Saturday, they were going to stick to their guns and they were going to go withdraw whatever they believe is there. So I don't doubt that there was a massive run on banks, but yet they were mainstream news sources, news outlets, were told, I would imagine, not to print anything in reference to shining light on that, because we don't want that to spread. So nothing in the mainstream news came out, but I would imagine and so that was Act 9 of how many ever acts they have to come. So Act 8, Act 7, Act 6, all the acts, which is every weekend or so, they put together a movement that they execute. They wouldn't get from 1 all the way to 9 and all of a sudden die down. So I would anticipate they were actually in the banks withdrawn. You know, I haven't seen any personal stories on Twitter, which would probably be the next best source, but that being the case, they were active. Now, to hint on what the news was covering, they were covering all the flash, the violence, the fires, you know, so that was a major topic to keep people from even concerning themselves with a bank run. So, that being the case, they covered it up with other stories, such as the people rioting and flash bombs in the face and stuff. So, I got a thought here. I got a super chat that says VZE East 4PC2. Okay. Sorry if I butchered that. It says, you know what? I think this whole thing is a show. The Witch Wall China says real event is that reset is happening and its timing is perfect right at the end of 2018. Economist Magazine 1988. So that is a very great assessment there. I would not disagree with you at all. Because one thing I find to kind of like validate that point and would give people something to argue on is the whole Economist cover in reference to the Phoenix, the burning of currencies, and the issuance of a new world global reserve currency, or however it's labeled. It's officially here because blockchain technology as a subject matter is being discussed as an alternative to the dollar. So it was right on time, which then plays into the idea that the whole cryptocurrency idea, as a lot of people want to say, it came out initially by the CIA, whatever. It's timely and it's right on time, right in sync, and it's right as the powers that be planned for it to be. So I do agree. Says not surprised. Thanks, Mike. Says what else? In France, ATM Max is $60 EU. So Brando got the scoop. He says in France, ATM Max is 60 EUs. So Brando, how did you come across that? Is that a story out there? Because that right there lets me know that if they drop withdrawals to 60 euros, let me actually Google this to see what I can come up with. If they actually, okay, here we go. I got an article. Brando, appreciate the heads up. Let's look at this because this plays right into more of what's happening in France, and you can expect this coming to your neighborhood sooner than later. And we have Bitcoin.com, which is Roger Ver's website. It says French ATM glitches and bank closures reported after scheduled bank runs. So they anticipated a run. They closed banks because, as I did some research on the weekend, it says Saturdays from like 9 to 1. Some banks tend to open. And if they open on Saturdays, then that particular branch that was open closes on Monday. So it says bank closures reported scheduled bank runs. So that will lead into the idea that more people had to run to the ATMs to withdraw. And what happened with the ATMs? According to here, let me see what it got here. It mentioned something about $60. Okay, it says, according to reports, the scheduled bank run began in phases, the first of which started on January 12th, and since then a few ATMs have been shut down due to glitches, while some banking offices have allegedly closed shop temporarily. So, glitches and closures. Is that to prevent a complete bank run, perhaps? I would imagine so. It says a few high-profile yellow vest leaders have been promoting a run on French banks and ATMs in order to show the opposition they mean business. A bank run occurs when a large number of customers of a bank withdraw their funds simultaneously. Yeah, never a good thing. Never a good thing. So with that being the case, we have a machine, an ATM that's completely dismantled. So they either rip that thing out or what? And so here we have an ATM here saying that they're probably closed due to they need repair, service and repair. So here's this is what's happening in France, man. This is the real deal. It says, here we go. It says the reporter explained that the glitches were similar to the situation in Greece a few years ago when banks implemented withdrawal limits of 60 euros per person, according to the report. The French government is also planning to implement withdrawal restrictions as well as laws to make sure the protests end. So what better way to cut the head off the snake other than just to chop the head off and hopefully the body goes wandering away? So if you would limit withdrawals from the bank, that gives people less of an incentive / the funding needed to actually be out in the streets as opposed to at home or at their job making money. And so definitely I can see, yeah, that stuff right there is going to spread, man. It will not stay contained because we are witnessing a global, and I mentioned this a while back, like they had the Arab Springs a while back. We got the French Springs, and it's going to end up being an EU Spring, where every country is going to begin eventually to have similar problems as the economy slows down or comes to a halt, and there's going to be more people on the street and more people expressing their displeasure in the system. So definitely something worthy to keep an eye on. Brando, appreciate you for sharing that one. It says, I think it's needed. It will only prevent who are supposed to be here. What else? It says people are get payment earlier than normal. People are getting paid earlier than normal. It says, is the student loan debt keeping young people from buying homes? Yep. They figured out how to make our kids debt slaves even before they start work. And now they can't buy a home and start a family. Right there. There you go. That's the real deal. Darren, appreciate you for sharing that. So let me get into one of those articles. And so here's the first article, one of three. All of them have a different subject heading, same subject matter. It says Federal Reserve study finds student loan debt is keeping young people from buying homes. Now, my thought would be if you are a institution that is responsible for the monetary base of a country and current overseer of the reserve currency of the world, wouldn't you believe that eventually people that's trapped in debt will become so restricted that they can't do anything that they normally would do, or things that would keep the economy in flow according to what has been done in prior generations? And the narrative of go to school, get a job, buy a house, get married, have kids, work, save, retire, that 7-plan step has been disrupted due to monetary policy. And that plays into the article, not the article, but the video I did earlier about what $1 million would do for you. What are your thoughts on that, people? Let me know what your thoughts are on that. That was the infographic that I was thinking about for quite a while, so I put it together, and it's going to be a multiple-part series because I can only get to just one line and be able to explain it in a way that it makes sense according to how I think. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't watched it, check it out. And more importantly, it's the infographic part that is the most important to get in people's hands. So I would encourage you guys, watch that video, grab the infographic, worst case scenario, and just share that with people. Let people think about, so they can see visually, what's going on there, and have them watch the video and definitely come back and watch part 2 because I'm going to get into the manpower hours and how that equates to what we're told we need to save. So definitely it's going to be a good one. But anyway, just thumb through this briefly, and phone lines aren't ringing off the hook, so I got time to just rant, it looks like, in the meantime. So with the phone's not busy right now, I can just rant. So if you want to stop me from ranting, give me a call. Anyway, it says a new study from the economists at the Federal Reserve, found people aged 24 to 32 are buying houses less often due to burden of student loan debt. And so it took PhD economists to realize that if you burden down, you weigh down the next generation of home buyers, the next generation of investors, that they won't buy a house. And then the next thought is, if they're not buying a house, that's because they're strapped for cash, because they're either not making none or everything they make is going to service in the debt, which means they're not going to be able to invest either. And so if you don't have this younger generation, age 24 to 32, concerned with putting aside funds in a predetermined allocated account called a 401k or 403b or whatever, financial product people tend to want to focus on, they're not going to invest there either. And so that plays into the whole, how last year I reported on the idea that every mainstream channel, it was like a stretch of like a month in the summer time frame where every news channel ran the same story mentioning that, why aren't millennials saving money? Why aren't millennials saving money type of thing? So the question is, it's the same thing with why they're not buying a house. They're strapped for debt. They're strapped. You can't buy when you're strapped. And so as always, I think I might have missed a call. Feel free to give me a call back and we'll get you on here. And to read a little bit more here, it says the study found that per capita college debt doubled from $5,000 to $10,000 during the time period, referring to 2005 to 2014, I assume. And it says a majority of the college debt increase came during and after the financial crisis, the report found. What bothers me is this, they had PhD economists making, 6 figures plus had to have a report to tell you that majority of college debt came after the crisis. Yeah. There is currently a total of 1.5 trillion. 1.5 trillion. We're hearing the words trillion more and more and more. And that's just the beginning. And education-related loans. So that's, yeah, man. I guess that's a part of the younger generation that are still carrying on their grandparents and their parents' mindset of what it takes to achieve the American dream. And I don't think, conventional style education, the way that it's been given to us, is going to be the next wave of how to get things done. But I could be completely wrong. Could be completely wrong. What else we got here in the chat? Let me get back to the chat a little bit. Start ranting and raving. It says, if really wanted to protect the native workers of the country, why didn't we push the companies and employers who hire illegals? Okay, so I assume this has to do with government shutdown. It says we want to protect native workers. Yeah, Baseman. So I don't think the goal has ever been to protect native workers. If I'm reading this, this is probably you responding to somebody, but the whole goal from a corporation standpoint is profitability, especially for the top tier, the 1%ers, those who run the businesses. They don't care who they hire. They just want to turn a profit at the cheapest rate they can. And that plays into the whole NAFTA situation, which is the reason why all the manufacturing base was shipped out, which hollowed out all the jobs that made our country, somewhat great as an industrial nation. Those days are gone. I don't think Trump can bring them back. Says go to school, owe $150,000, can't get good paying job, in debt for the rest of life. Other people go to Google, get what you owe $150,000 for that. That's USA. Yeah, and around Google and out in California, every house to work for Google, making $150,000, you stay in a 1-bedroom shack that costs you $1,000. They out there splitting beds in California. Can you imagine splitting a bed and paying $1,000? Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, can you hear me, Mike?
Yeah, I got you. How you doing? What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Vincent. I'm calling from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Vincent from West Palm Beach, Florida. How are you doing, my friend? Got some good weather down there, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. I actually live like right down the street from where Trump is his plane lands with the Air Force One.
Okay, good deal. What's on your mind this evening?
Yeah, I wanted to find out, should I get into the blockchain like right now? Because I know that they was talking about the blockchain as far as the blockchain, like they was talking about, like the government is coming out possibly with a new Fed coin or something like that. So I was trying to figure out, should I wait with my gold and silver that I have to wait to the new blockchain come out to go into the new system, or should I go into the blockchain with some crypto, with some, buy some Litecoin or something like that now?
All right, man. So I'm about to give you my opinion. This is not advice whatsoever. This is solely entertainment. So, just so you know that, because I'm not all that. I'm just a patriot, fellow patriot, which is like yourself. But of hearing what you're throwing out there, and the way you reference it as blockchain, as if like there's that. So the blockchain itself is just it's a open ledger source of computer communication amongst the internet, for the sense. And so there's so many different projects that utilize the blockchain. So there's a lot more to this. There's a lot more to this than just getting into the blockchain. And so I would encourage you, before you put $1 into anything, do some homework, do some research, read some books, spend more time fully understanding the technology for what it can be, and don't be concerned so much as what you can possibly do with it or make from it, because it's still, in my opinion, in test phase. And so there's a lot of projects that are promising and they're capable of doing good. But I can never, in good faith, tell you to put your funds into something that you don't know about directly, based upon a little bit of information I gathered from your introduction. And then I would never tell somebody to get rid of their weight. You know what I mean by that?
Right.
And
right.
Just because weight rather is time tested and proven, and it's what all the big boys do and what the central banks do. So that has some credibility to it. Whereas in the new system, the new asset class, we're still in the beginning phases. It's only 10 years old, and metals are thousands of years old. So definitely you want to be positioned heavily as you can, give or take your situation. And then once you educate yourself, then you can learn about what projects might interest you based on what you believe will have potential in the future. So I would encourage you to go upon what you think you have interest in, based upon whatever hobbies or whatever you might have that could be related to that, because you'll buy into it a lot easier and support the project. So knowing the team, knowing the project, knowing what they can do, knowing the industry that they're promising to disrupt, make sure they got some credible sources behind it, make sure they've been around for a while, and find out about them before you go out there just throwing things, because it is a gamble. It is a big gamble, because we don't know how this thing gonna turn out. And so if you do your homework, you'll feel more comfortable in putting something somewhere, as opposed to taking somebody's advice based upon one YouTube video saying this is going to pop and this is going to go 1,000-fold next month. You're gambling, you know what I'm saying? So that's my opinion, my friend. I would say get educated on the subject matter, find some good projects, study first, make sure you feel 100% comfortable that you're speculating, and only put in what you're willing to lose.
Okay, yeah, because I was just kind of, I was listening to some things out there. I know it over there in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. I was looking at the Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum was doing like pretty big over there because of the economy had been dropped over there, as far as they're in debt.
Yeah.
So, just kind of, hearing some things out there, and, I just been sitting back. So I was like, should I get into it now, or should I kind of just wait? But what you're saying is making good sense. And I've been listening to you for a while. Me and my wife, we've really been paying attention to your show. It's first time calling, but we've been listening to you for a while, and you're doing a good job.
Appreciate it.
So but I just kind of just want to understand a little bit more of like the digital wallet and blockchain, how it works before I, because I'm an old school guy. I'm like, in my 50s now. So, I'm kind of, set in my ways now. So, but I kind of want to just see which way to go so I can make the future better as far as using the money, the gold and silver that I have, that I accumulated through years.
Definitely. So my advice, people who are worthy of following, a guy named, I think it's a Cryptoverse or Cryptoversity, or he has a course. Now, I'm not an endorsement or affiliate with him, but he's a credible source because he's been in it for a while. And Mike Maloney, Mike Maloney from goldsilver.com. He put a stamp of approval on how he's learned from him as well. So that's a guy that I would recommend going to his YouTube channel, connecting with him via YouTube, follow him, get educated. And if you're willing to invest in your education, I would say get a course, man. Get a course. It can only help you in the long run as opposed to cost you if you go in blindly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So definitely do that.
So so I appreciate it, man. You know, I'm like this is my first time calling, and you know, I appreciate it. I've watched you and keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. You have a good one.
You too, man.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's good stuff, man. That is good stuff. That's good stuff there. You know, just my opinion. You know, take it with a grain of salt. Do your own homework and research, but definitely first thought, my opinion on what I would, you know, if somebody was asking me a question and giving me information, what I would want to hear is, you know, don't rush into nothing. Take your time, because the crypto stuff, in my opinion, is not going anywhere. And, you know, I personally am expecting another dip. So I believe it's going to get a little bit cheaper pretty soon. And so I saw a question there that I wanted to answer. Okay, so this is from, I think it's, if I'm not, you know, Jorge George 22. And it says, you know, I'm not sure if this is a serious question or not, but since it's there, I'm going to just, you know, share my 2 cents with it. As always, feel free to give me a call. We'll, you know, get you on here. But it says, I'm a college student. I have 10 Bitcoin, and 150 Litecoin. I'm really thinking about dropping out of school. What do you think? And so, that's a serious question. I appreciate you, you know, considering asking me that question. And, you know, I'm going to give you my gut, and then my mind, and just hopefully a spirit-led as far as the information I share. But first thing that came to mind is, you know, you're thinking about dropping out of school. So depending on your situation, depending on where you're at in school, if you're like, you know, in the beginning phase of school, that could be different. If you're at the very end, you got a couple classes and you're done, a couple semesters or whatever, you're done. And then, what are you studying? And so if you're studying something that you're passionate about and it's in line with your gifting, it wouldn't hurt to have that information. And so if you're planning on using your college degree to get involved in the workforce and get your career started, whatever that might be, then you should not drop out of school. And I would never tell somebody to drop out of school anyway. So I can't, in good conscience, tell you to drop out because I don't know more about your situation. But, you know, I personally, just how I operate, I consider that quitting. And so, you know, just because you got some crypto doesn't mean you're in position to have a secure future or start off your future in a positive light. So my advice would be to finish what you started. If you come this far, no matter where you're at, you initially intended to see this thing through. And so I would definitely see this thing through. But then also, you know, what are you going there for? Is it in line with your gifting? Is it something you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life? And so there's more to factor into that. But definitely, I would say see it through. But more importantly, I would say, you know, go seek someone, go get some advice from someone, i.e. a counselor. Consult your parents and let them know what's in your heart, because, you know, if your heart's not there, then you're going to drop out anyway. But definitely, there's a lot more to that question just a simple drop out. But definitely, I'm going to tell you, stay in school, and there's no real need to use the fact that you have a couple dollars in crypto. That can easily be gone like that. But then what you're starting, especially if you're taking out student loans, you got to pay that stuff back. So depending on where you're at, my friend, I would say stick in there, finish this thing out. You know, worst thing happens, you graduate, you got some debt on your shoulders, but yet if the little crypto you got does well, you can probably take care of that and then start off whatever it is you like being debt free. So keep that in mind. So just my 2 cents there. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. But it says I'm debt free and I'm free of debt so far. So I would say keep doing what you're doing, my friend. I wouldn't say don't quit school, man. Like, you know, the degree you have, depending on what it's for, is also the idea that if you're debt free, as you mentioned, if you can walk across that stage and say you finish a portion of an important segment of your life, as you get older, when you look back, I think you'll feel that fulfillment of having accomplished something, and you'll also have, you know, some paperwork to show it, which to this moment, still has a credible use in our system because it can get you somewhere possibly. But yeah, I wouldn't say don't quit, man. Said business marketing. Yeah, you can use business marketing, man. You can use business marketing, and that's something that you can use in any field. You can even use that if you're interested in getting into the crypto sector and then doing something off of that. Like, because, you know, running a business and then be able to market it, that all ties into being able to start off your career having some options because you might have a unique skill set. So stick with what you're doing, my friend. Stick with what you're doing. Says get all the experience you can, build your mind, learn from anyone you can. 100% college great for networking. Very true. Good stuff, man. Definitely, you know. And so we got a young fella in the chat, and all my vets out there that's been around, been there, done that. You know, if you got something to share, please let the young fella know what your thoughts are. And young fella, also remember, this is our opinion. So definitely not sure where you're at spiritually, but you want to pray for it because, you know, God will definitely let you know a little bit better than we can. We're just giving you our opinion based upon our experience, being that we've done there, been that. And, you know, I'm grateful that I graduated from college because I had a lot of memories that, you know, are priceless. It's a great period of your life that you want to enjoy, because once you leave and get out in the real world, you're going to want to go back. Oh, man, that's what it is. It says young people aren't buying homes because old people aren't making it easy. Yeah, man. So this goes back to the whole idea of buying houses. So, the Federal Reserve has come out with a study saying that, you know, the young people can't afford houses, as if it took PhD in economics to really determine that. But to make it even more difficult is the fact that most people, the housing in and of itself isn't really affordable. And so not only are we in a student debt bubble, we're in a housing bubble, an equity bubble, a bond bubble. So there's so many bubbles to where, to be truthful with you, give or take the prices of housing, it might be better for a young person to hold off and stack some weight, stack some bread, do what you got to do to position yourself to take advantage of the fire sale in the real estate industry that's coming. And so you'll be better off holding off, getting your weight up, doing what you got to do to solidify, having a little bit of funds, and depending on how this whole, you know, this next round of credit is issued or not issued, you'll be able to probably acquire a house at a much cheaper price. And, you know, go from there. So that would be my thoughts there, man. That would be my thought there. And anyway, we are rolling. We are rolling, having fun. As always, man, if you are enjoying the back and forth, as I like to encourage people, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button so it'll help other people find out what we're doing here and how we get down. Because definitely the goal is to bring more people into the fold so they can become aware. Because awareness brings, you know, should lead to action, hopefully. It says, if your priorities have a house, study real estate. Yeah, it wouldn't be, that definitely would be good to know what you're getting into, definitely. It says, Mike Maloney expects one more buying dip in the near future. Brando. Yeah, I'm the same way. I believe it just because it just seems like it's the right thing to do. If you are an overseer of all the markets in the form of, you know, derivatives or futures contracts, whatever it is that controls the pricing mechanism of a market, especially metals, and now the newly issued crypto financial sector, it'd be in your best interest to buy yourself some time, because most of the powers that be can't afford to have the system unravel by mistake. It's one thing if they are orchestrating the collapse, which no doubt in my mind they're aware of the collapse, because you know, that they nothing is done by surprise when it comes to those that run our monetary system. They are well aware they're very smart individuals, or else they wouldn't have been able to keep this thing running for hundreds of years. So they're aware of the fact that things are shifting, and they're already positioned. We know that because the 1% own majority of the planet. So they are going to be somebody's landlord regardless. And even if you think you loan land, I question the fact that the deed may not necessarily be completely yours, because if you don't pay your property taxes, the ground underneath you, they're going to take your house on top of it. So anyway it go, they're still in a good position of being able to dictate how this thing unravels. And so I believe, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. And so it says, this me boss lady says, crypto has become more popular in Puerto Rico after wealthy guys like Brock Pierce and Michael Turpin moved there and use it to teach others. Very true. And so I realized that Puerto Rico has become like the capital or the Mecca in the United States, especially of crypto. So I wonder, you know, what type of communities down there. And so it's me, boss lady. Are you currently in Puerto Rico, or you just follow the crypto sector, or what? Because if you're down there, I'd be curious to find out what type of projects they have going on down there. Because I watched a few videos a while back from Brock Pierce doing some town hall type meetings, basically trying to get government approval for some tax-free advantages and stuff like that. And the Puerto Rican people weren't too excited about having a new community come in. And ultimately what that does is just drive prices up of, you know, the local economy there. In Puerto Rico, you know, it's already pretty expensive. So I can see how the majority of the island is probably, you know, a lot of islanders have already left. So yeah. So if you want to become welfare queen, make some Baby. Okay, Zoma. Okay. It says the crypto rich have moved to Puerto Rico to avoid taxation. Definitely. Everybody, not even just the crypto people, anybody who's aware of the tax advantages, and if you have a business, it'll be in your best interest if you make over a certain amount of money to operate out of Puerto Rico, from what I've gathered. Yeah, man. What else? So the phone lines is dead. Looks like nobody want to talk to me directly, man, but that's okay. I forgive you guys. I forgive you. No hard feelings here. It says the markets can be irrational for longer than we can stay liquid. Kev, good point, man. Very true. And that's why I tell people not to pay attention to price. Just focus on, actual possession, because price will fluctuate. But one thing is, having possession will prove to be well worth your weight in the end. Get it? Weight in the end. Got a caller. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
This is Scott calling you from Phoenix.
Scott from Phoenix. How you doing, my friend? What's on your mind this evening?
I'm doing all right, man. Well, this is my first time really calling. I've been watching you for about a good year now.
Yeah.
Appreciate the show, man. Appreciate the information. I'm a young man, and I definitely take heed to what you say, so thanks.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend.
Not at all, man. But my real, real reason for calling is cryptocurrency.
Okay.
I've been really looking to go ahead and invest in something, but cryptocurrency is, I just don't know about it, Mike. I mean, we don't know who made it.
Right.
I don't know. I know that a lot of people invest in it. There was this video that I seen on YouTube that was kind of going into what the Economist magazine said with the Phoenix that you brought up earlier.
Yeah.
And how everything is kind of hitting at the same time and at the right time. But I guess really what I'm trying to say is kind of what the other guy said. Do you think we should go ahead and put the money in now, or do you think we should wait till the governments come out with something or they start implementing something? Because we know they aren't going to let us have some currency that they have absolutely no control over.
Right. And so, well, I appreciate the question. And as I mentioned to the same caller, my advice is going to be similar. But yet one thing I didn't mention to him that I think I wanted to touch on with you is that he mentioned wait until the government comes out with their coin. And then you also hinted at waiting on the government to come out with their coin. But keep in mind that whatever is going to come from our government is not for your best interest as far as being able to make a profit off of it, the way this other stuff, this labeled as being decentralized, is presented to be for us as a profit mechanism that people are taking advantage of. So the early adopters definitely made off well. And so now that brought in a lot of new, fresh, young money now. And that money that's in there now or that's coming, if it's not institutional, even the institutional money that's coming, because as I mentioned before, they're going to put a crypto-based product in your 401k and your 403b. It's going to be issued as a derivative of something that's going to be sold to you as a retirement vehicle. So everyone's going to own something eventually, because that's just the next wave of being able to sustain and make profit. But as far as, waiting on some type of government coin, Fed coin, or whatever it might be, it's going to be centrally controlled, and that means that it's not something that you can profit from directly. It's going to be given to us, I believe, in my opinion, as an alternative to go alongside of the Federal Reserve note as it faces its issues on an international scene. It's going to have some fluctuations as far as the volatility of it being an international currency, and so we're going to need something here a little bit more stable. So stable coins, which are being issued right now by the too big to fail banks and major institutions, those might be the initial tools that we use until a central bank coin comes that can be pegged to the stable coin, which is then pegged to the dollar. So they're going to try to spin off stuff that's pegged, but yet pegging things basically means that they don't want to restrict themselves to being focused on one thing. So they want a little bit of everything, and not everything is not going to be for you to profit. So with that being the case, you're not going to be able to buy into a centrally controlled coin. They're going to give it to you as a way of, like, your direct deposit might be a centralized coin. So you're going to have it automatically. Now,
I see.
On the projects, as far as the technology that's being adopted and all the great projects by entrepreneurs and people who are trying to disrupt the system, those are projects that have promise in the short and near term because they're allowed to flourish right now. But as always, the powers that be don't like competition, so those might face major problems in the day ahead. So between now and that point, there might be a window of opportunity to actually, make some profit or make gains or to hold an asset that would appreciate in value nominally. But once again, this is all new. This is all experimental in my viewpoint. So unless you're educated and you know exactly where you're going to go, what projects you like, what they promised you, what they've done, who the team is, and the community behind it, education comes before actually investing. So I would say definitely become familiar with certain projects, and then get involved in those communities, and then you'll develop more of an interest. And then at the end of the day, once you're ready to do something, anticipate you could lose everything. So with that mind frame, you might not want to put as much as you probably would want to put in metals, because metals are time tested and proven. So that would be my 2 cents. But education first, and then it's still early in regards to what that asset class could be. So you're not going to miss out completely, because it's up against a dying national currency in the Federal Reserve note. So all that paper value is going to transfer into the crypto sector, which is going to cause it to rise. So you won't miss that swing, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion. It's entertainment purposes only.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, a twist to that. Now, kind of like what's going on in China with the credit system.
Yeah.
Do you think that this electronic, no physical currency, do you think that they're trying to push us to where they can control us more? Because I think in China, if you don't have a high enough credit score, you could get shunned. I don't know if it's true, but you can, or maybe it might go there, but if they restrict your accesses to things, you may not be able to spend your funds the way you want.
Correct.
Like you said, if you got your weight, you can just go ahead, or you got cash saved if it's still valuable. Even if they turn you off if that's where we're going to go, you can still go ahead and go to the gas station and put 5 or 10 or whatever you need.
Yeah.
But do you think that they're pushing us to where they can control us completely, or do you think this is something where they really want us to have more freedom?
My first guess, my instinct tells me that they don't want us to have anything that they didn't allow us to have. So they definitely don't want us to have freedom and the opportunity of choice. So like what I've gathered in my couple of years of doing this stuff now is that everything is designed to either minimize your right to choose freely, or for them to predetermine choices for you to make. Like what happened with the presidential races. How come every single presidential race, there's 6 or 7 candidates that have already been pre-chosen for us, and they give us the illusion that we're going to have a choice in picking either candidate, but both candidates tend to be paid for a spokesman already. So you're not really getting a choice. You're just getting somebody else's choice for us. So same thing applies with this. Everything that's been presented for us now has been given to us to give us the illusion that we're free. But in actuality, if you look around, we're all, for the most part, we're all tightly condensed in suburban type areas or residential areas, subject to the same gas stations on the corner, same grocery store. So we've been condensed into these metropolitan areas by design, you know what I'm saying? So the goal is no choices, but to give us the smell of freedom, because you might be able to buy, a nice house, a nice Benz, but all that's still relatively owned by somebody else. Because if you miss a payment or something like that, you're going to find out who really own your stuff. So, but that's my thought, man. The goal is to limit choice and to limit options at the end of the day. So that's where I think all this is eventually heading. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure where you're at spiritually, but, biblically speaking, in the end of the book, in Revelations, it tells us where all this is truly heading, where it's going to end up. So we're going to end up there regardless. Now that's a matter of faith and believing in Jesus Christ and, accepting his salvation through his blood. So that's when that stuff becomes really important. So, but we got a while from that, I believe. So, but hope I answered your question, my friend.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm going to hold you up, man. You have a good night.
All right, you as well. Thanks for the call.
No problem.
Yeah, man. Good stuff as always. Good stuff as always. We got about one more call. So feel free to give me a call, and we'll get you on here. And definitely, man, it's been some good back and forth. Good back and forth as always. And once again, I just want to give you an idea. If you're still on there, we got less than about 100 people on here. Don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button if you're watching. It takes a 1 second to look below your screen wherever you're watching and hit thumbs up. And it's your way of supporting the channel. That's all I ask. Support the channel so more people can find us, and so we can get more great callers and more people calling in, asking questions, and getting my opinion on certain matters, as well as the good point is, as people talk and share whatever's on their mind, you can also respond in the chat and give people another option, because we all here have a unique perspective that needs to be heard. Hence the idea, RTD Live Talk, a voice for the people. This is about making sure you guys have an opinion and a voice as well. So definitely want to, I value your guys' opinion. What else we got here? It says cryptocurrency was initially made to be decentralized power of currency to the people. If everyone is blinded without knowledge and until all the centralized options, we will still stay up thumb. Right, bang, chief, 100% true, man. I agree 100%, and that's why. And just to show how that's very true and relevant is the idea that all of a sudden last year, the end of last year, a good portion of financial institutions decided to come out with a stable coin and call it stable coin, and it's pegged to the dollar. So think about that transition there. We had metals, paper, redeemable into metals, solely paper, that became digits as far as, in your bank account, on your computer screens, all digits. And then now we have another form of digit called stablecoin that's then pegged to another dollar. So those are the options that have been given to us. And if you see how that is working, it's not in our best interest. It says cryptos will work, but only when banks fail. Yeah, Kev, I do agree that they'll be a viable option. But then you have all the intermediary / counterparty type of risk aspects to that, because if the powers that be, those that control our monetary system, aren't able to profit off that coin as well, I would imagine that they, as I say, they referring to those that are in the 1%, those that actually are in the know, they control the governments. You know what I'm saying? They are the primary funder of and lobbyists for our government, so they are in the pockets of all the politicians. So they're going to pass some legislation right away to say you can't use that particular coin, you can't use coins without yada 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 and all stuff like that. So that's what the intention is, I believe. It says, Mike, your thoughts on keeping money in the bank, such as money market accounts? Clayton, good question there. My opinion is, and this is just solely my opinion, and I'm gonna provide you my opinion based upon that question. If we were in Zimbabwe, or if we were in Argentina, or if we were in Venezuela. And so if you ask a Zimbabwean citizen what their thoughts are on money market accounts when their economy collapses or has issues, and what the government is going to do as a response to that, in hindsight, they would say, they would take everything out of it, because in knowing what would come to that account, if you can get access to it when you need it, because money market accounts, I'm not sure if those are ones that you can liquidate right away, or they might be tied in. May have to have those on hold for 6 months or something like that, or what the restrictions might be with those accounts. So if they're readable, you can get access to it right away, and at the end of the day, my opinion is that if there's going to be issues in the banking sector, it's going to be because of insolvency. And it's already written in that bail-ins will occur. So all financial products, which include money market accounts, are products offered to you by your bank or institution, whatever. It belongs to them. You lend them money into that product. So it already belongs to them. And so you are a creditor of that. So you are going to be paid last of that. So it's one of those fine lines, man. I would say, if you want to lose it, keep it in there. If you don't want to lose it, if you want to have more say-so over your own economic opportunities there, I would say, follow probably your instinct, because in asking that question, you're already concerned about it. So that would be my thought. Hopefully that was helpful. It says, LOL, yep, whatever Anderson Cooper tells them. The question goes, anybody, do you know why Citibank loves to force and cash checks from the small business without owners' next signature stamp on back? I don't know the question or the answer to that one, so I'm going to leave that alone. I don't know that one. If anybody got a question or answer for that, feel free to answer that. Got another caller and the last caller. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. It's Brando Commando from Philly. How you doing?
Brando Commando. I'm doing good, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
That's good.
I've been chatting with some friends about this government shutdown thing.
Yeah.
And all they can talk about is the goddamn wall. No one even seems to remember that it got shut down because they blew the budget and they didn't want to pass another spending bill.
Yeah. Good point, man. So, and that's the thing. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let you finish.
Oh, so I was, just looking online today because I saw your headline last night that Trump told him to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to see if, you know, everything had gone back to normal, or if Trump just kind of told them to go back to work.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started reading the headlines, right? And, like, some celebrity I never heard of had some kind of, like, rant on Twitter. And then, like, all the Democrats were, like, thinking the next headline was the Democrats were like, oh, should we retweet this celebrity's rant against Trump? Like, all of a sudden, celebrities are, like, the authority on whether the government should be open or whether the budget should be blown again, or, you know, all of a sudden it's like, let's just listen to the loudest celebrity in the room, and that's what the news media is going to put in the headlines.
Yeah, that's not surprising, man. Like, I've noticed that more Hollywood celebrities have become political activists in the last 2 years because of this current administration. That you know, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. You know, because those, you know, I'm gonna say all of them, but and I believe that in order to be a part of that whole community in Hollywood, you have to be a person that's a very open-minded, and I've heard a lot of bad things about people who live in Hollywood and the things that they have to do in order to make the levels that they have to make. So I'm not surprised whatsoever that people jump on a bandwagon to support the mainstream liberal-based media of like hate Trump, hate Trump. What about truth? What about looking at both sides equally and saying that neither one of them have done anything for the mainstream people? But Hollywood, they're all fine. They make money. Anybody that puts funds in their pocket, they'll be willing to root for. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all, man. Not surprised at all.
It just seems oddly timed that you know, the stock market's been tanking, the Fed has been panicking, and they're diverting everyone's attention to some kind of like border wall issue, not the fact that the government is like, you know, spending, what is it, $180 billion a month or some kind of ridiculous number.
Yeah.
And you know, no one keeps their eye on the prize.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you know, Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money. You know, I like his show of Follow the Money. You want to find out what's going on, just follow the trail. There's always a trail somewhere, and the trail will lead you to what's really going on. And so that's his wall. As I mentioned before, his wall is just an illusion. It's a distraction from the primary subject matter, of which Trump is just playing his typical hardball bargaining chip type of thing, buying himself time for whatever he's trying to get done under the scene, whether good or bad, drugs, manipulation, human trafficking, whatever he's selling. You know, as of now, it's becoming a distraction, and a lot of people are feeling the effects of it. So hopefully it works out for him the way he anticipates it will, because if not, it's going to hinder his chances of getting reelected if that's one thing he wants. But at the end of the day, he don't need this job anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a one-and-done president. But hopefully some shakeup happens where we get to see what's really happening in D.C. at the end of the day. So, but Brando, man, I appreciate you calling, man. Thanks for chiming in and let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, man. Anytime, Lake. Love what you do, man. Keep it up. Thanks.
For sure. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care. Peace.
Yeah, man. So that's all she wrote. That's all she wrote. We're going to call it in tonight. As always, man, it's been good. And the last plea, not last plea, but the last option for you guys, you know, support the channel. Don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button right below the screen here. And more importantly, if we have any new viewers to the channel, take advantage of all the resources down below. I think over the last couple years of being able to connect with a lot of people, there's a lot of valuable tools beneath me in the form of information. Information brings awareness. Awareness should lead to action. So hopefully you guys were informed and entertained tonight. More importantly, if you guys want, up in this corner here, you can support the channel via monetary units that I can convert to something a little bit more useful, or some Bitcoin right there, whatever works best for you guys. Any blessing is appreciated, as I just enjoy doing this to connect with great people and to have a good time on the air. But other than that, people, it's gonna be great. Be blessed, be safe, have a good evening, stay prayed up, and let's just keep our eyes down and keep our ears down rather than our eyes open and stay alert to what's going on. So peace.